Hey there, welcome to episode 60 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I'm your host, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, Dan Hugo. We are recording this on the evening of Friday, April 12. Normally try to get these published earlier in the day on Friday, but such is life. Some flexibility in scheduling is always a thing, especially when it comes to innovation. Before I get started, before you forget, also, we are a Nevada nonprofit corporation, a 501c3 public charity. We recently renamed ourselves officially with the IRS and, of course, with the state of Nevada from Code for Vegas Foundation to Innovate for Vegas Foundation. This represented the last of the administrata. Although we are looking to fill a board seat now that one of our founding board members and the original founder of Code for Vegas is stepping down to pursue life and so on. So if you are interested in participating as a director on our board of directors, do reach out. So today's title, Making It Rain. Many episodes on this audio program, probably most, those without guests, which means most. Are about projects and endeavors, describing the blue sky at which we aim, under which we plan, and which must become clouded. In the desert, gray clouds are a good thing, so let it rain. In other words, aspiration is good, nascent is slightly better, demos and deployment rule the day. So moving forward, we should talk more about execution of ideas, or the third I in our 3I purpose: ideation, innovation, implementation. Implementation is important. It doesn't do itself. The link section, very simple, the usual 2 links, one to our website, innovateforvegas.org, and our GitHub organization, github.com/innovateforvegas. It does have capital I, capital F, capital V, but I don't believe the case is relevant. And we left out the word foundation. But if you are looking for us on GitHub, Innovate for Vegas. A couple of random bits. For some reason, people keep making 50-cent donations. There were several $1 donations, but they've dropped down to 50 cents through our Stripe donation link, which is found on our website and also on our GitHub profile. And by the way, we're also a GitHub sponsor participant, so you're welcome to sponsor our organization through the GitHub sponsor channel. The monies go to the same place. And in fact, Stripe offers a nonprofit discount for fees and so on. So if you do want to make a very small donation, I think if you go through the GitHub sponsor link, you can do a one-time donation, and I believe we save the fees. Turns out, if you make a normal donation through a donation link, even though we do have a reduced fee structure as a nonprofit public charity, it's the charity part actually, we do have a reduced fee structure for donations, which is a nice thing, nice feature of Stripe, so thanks for that. However, for donations at $1 and lower, the fees are still a substantial fraction. So the donations in and the actual cash out have been very different. But I guess it's nice that people are donating, so that's fine. I believe through March and now into almost halfway through April, we've received something like 32 donations. I'm not looking at it at the moment. Most at $1. The last several, I think all the ones in April are 50 cents. I've adjusted our minimum to $1 only because the 50-cent donation really gets taken by fees. So not greed, just administrata. Our weekly office hours do continue every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Do recall Nevada is part of the Pacific Coast. No, we're on Pacific time, so do feel free to join in. The link is published on our posted event calendar on our website. Each event has the link to the subscribe, has the subscribe link in the description. So you can always add the calendar to your own calendar subscriptions. This fits into our overall smart calendar project, as part of Smart Social. So I will, rather than talking about what it could be, I will hope to very soon talk about how you can make use of it. But in the meantime, we do publish a calendar, event calendar, on our website. Our website is in need of some beautification. That's been on the to-do list for too long. But if you are interested, we use Jitsi, even though we do have free Google Video, Google Meet, I think. We do have that for free. However, in an effort to try to encourage free civic volunteer groups in general to use available tools which are free, we use Jitsi Meet, as an MEET. Jitsi, JITSI. Open source platform, does video chat, does the whole 9 yards, and open source can't beat it. The company that sponsors its development, 8x8, was at one time many years ago based in Sunnyvale, California. And at the time, I was producing a few shows on our podcast network, Radio Sunnyvale. I had an opportunity to sit down with the then CEO and had a very nice conversation. They're a cool company, cool people as of then. I mean, this is a long time ago, but they continue to sponsor very usable open source projects like Jitsi, so why not? So this is available for anyone to use. So we have a pre-assigned, I guess, meeting room with moderation set up for every week. It's the same link. And then we, anyone can create a meeting room there. This is not a sponsored plug. This is just saying it's a useful tool. If you are a volunteer group, a club, a charity organization, you don't have a lot of money to spend on a Zoom subscription, etc. It's a great tool. So we make use of that every week. We do also have our board meetings on the fourth Thursday of each month. So we conduct the business during the office hours, which makes our meetings shareable for public consumption. If you would like to join in, we do not record. We have an agenda and some meeting notes, but the meeting itself is not recorded. Thus, if you would like to join in and make some comments or ask some questions, those are for the meeting, not for posterity, for the world outside of the notes. So come on down. Our outreach to former Code for America brigades continues. Our reach here within Southern Nevada has been a challenge to find civic volunteers who are interested in working on projects. I think it's a lack of understanding about how civic volunteerism works. The Code for Vegas platform, the group, the organization, all of it started some 10 years ago. I think it was 10 or 12 years ago. That was a different time. So some of the, let's say, high school graduate, recent college or vocational or boot camp graduates, so in the upper teens, low 20s, even mid 20s, these are people that were 8 years old when Code for Vegas existed, if they lived here. So there's no sense of history there, and there may not be a familiarity with how open source and civic volunteerism works. I've done other episodes about this. It will become much more obvious when we deploy things, when we actually put into practice what I've been talking about, the labs, the value for value model, the value proposition for people who do volunteer their time, that it will come back to you later. I often repeat this meme. I don't want you to work for free, but I also don't want, I want you to, let me sort myself out here. I don't want you to work for free, but I want you to be willing to work for free. Initially. Maybe I should add that. Initially. We are not a startup. We're not a software company. We're not a hardware company. We're not a technology company. We're a civic volunteer organization. Our purpose is to ideate, innovate, and implement. To enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation. I should remember this by now. To make our communities better. So the outcomes should not only be those things, but individuals and maybe even teams that know how to do things, work together turn ideas into action and to see actual results, and then maybe even iterate. So these are all nice things to talk about. I found if there's a quizzical look on describing this, that maybe an example, a demonstration will be much more valuable. So rather than spending time talking about these things, we can spend time talking about outcomes, even if the outcomes are driven by one or a very small group of people. I suspect initially it will be one person, and then ideally one or two from beyond Nevada, if we can make some useful contacts with some of the former Code for America brigades, who themselves are continuing to work if they can, but also are facing similar problems finding other people to volunteer their time. Sometimes you have to look beyond your backyard. So concerning donations, we are a completely donation-driven organization. We don't pay anyone, myself included, so none of our directors, none of our governance, none of our mentors, if you like, volunteers, all volunteers. Everyone is a volunteer. The time spent will be rewarded later. And so it's something to think about. If you are considering participation, do know that when there's no free food, it's because we don't have sponsors, because we have nothing to sponsor. So the chicken and egg effect comes into play. It's also important to note that volunteer time, while it is not compensated, is not necessarily free. So most of our expenses are technology related. So hosting fees, registering and renewing domain names, which is more expensive than you would hope. And then anything else that comes out. But it's been mostly hosting, which is nominal. And it could go up as we deploy things, obviously. So our need for sustainable funding for projects as we deploy them becomes important. And that's where the value proposition for volunteers is interesting, but also how the population as a whole might realize the value of the organization and donate for the cause. So we'll see how that all works out. But most of the costs are those now. Initially, it was filing fees. So if you are forming a nonprofit, there's always a fee to pay somewhere. And when we are filing, our annual list is filed on June 30th each year. And so hopefully we'll have another board member or two when we update our filings. That fee is $50, by the way. So it's not breaking the bank, but it is also nice to have some support from people who realize the value of what we're trying to accomplish. The best way to do that is to show rather than tell. Ideally, our project deployments will get some attention. There you go. Hopefully this will lead to more donations. And if there's more interest, more donations, the possibility of getting more volunteers, the possibility of reigniting our hackathon schedule, reigniting focused efforts on our various projects, deploying more things, etc., etc. By the way, if we have donations and we have hackathons, we can have victuals, we can have snacks, things that power such efforts. So something to think about if you are curious. Should you support the Innovate for Vegas Foundation? Yes, but maybe you're waiting to see what we're actually working on. That is not horrible. So ideally, you'll be able to see some things soon and maybe raise an eyebrow or two. Consider telling a friend and or supporting us financially. Speaking of volunteering, we initially started off by trying to be as inclusive as possible, and inclusivity, diversity, and accessibility continue to be our fundamental tenets. Doesn't that sound like DEI? So not quite. We don't have the resources, the size, nor the agenda, I guess, to support the notion of equity per se. Accessibility, I consider to be sort of a subset of that. You should be able to have access to what we're working on, just like anyone else. We're not a school. We're not a software company. We don't hire people. So by trying to make things accessible, that is accounting for, and this should extend, by the way, into our projects, right? So if our mindset, our ethos includes the notion that not everyone can read English, for example, maybe not everyone can see the words, see the characters, If you can't actually read, that's a different kind of challenge. But so vision impairments, hearing impairments, different languages, not to mention physical limitations or challenges. I frequently display a street corner located very near where I'm recording this audio program that has been in its current state for at least 10 years. And if you are in need of a ramp from the curb, if you need to cross the street, they got you. If you need to press that crosswalk button because the intersection is very near the I-95 freeway, it's one block over, so it's a high flow, high traffic intersection, relatively high. They got you. They got that button. Unfortunately, between those two things, the ramp and the button, there is landscaping that includes a brick wall, one layer. So it's a brick wall about 3 inches tall with extremely difficult to negotiate rock landscaping. And of course, the corner dips down, so it makes it a higher step to get over the bricks onto an extremely troubling rock landscape that is tricky to negotiate, even if you are completely able-bodied and able to walk with some reasonable shoes. If you have flip-flops or some other light shoes, forget about it. So this is just one example of an accessibility failure, which could be mitigated by co-creation. So if we begin our journey by making sure that the people that want to volunteer on things can see and hear or make use of modern technologies, why ARIA, etc. If we make sure that we account for those things internally and then we release things or we work on things and eventually release them and iterate on them, that also account for the ability of our people in our communities to use, to see, to hear, to negotiate physically, we can hopefully elevate our communities. But it doesn't make sense to build for volunteers who cannot interact with things and assume that they will magically work for people in our larger communities with similar challenges. So we start from there. Our inclusivity, diversity, accessibility program ethos is about operating internally as we would externally for our target audience, which is people. So in that regard, we are hoping that people will take that as a personal challenge and will operate with that in mind. And we'll see. That wasn't the case initially, unfortunately. So we receive very few messages from potential volunteers in the last 6 months or so. They rarely follow up. The most recent, I received an email through our AdMe link, our AdMe email link on our GitHub profile. I responded within probably the same day. I don't remember if it was hours or minutes. That was 2 weeks ago. So time spent even responding to emails is very expensive. So we've made an adjustment on our GitHub page, and we'll start making it more prominent that while we are not gatekeeping and while we do promote inclusivity, diversity, and accessibility, we also do not have the resources. Like I said, we're not a big company. We cannot enable equity. We cannot say, it doesn't matter if you know how to code or how to create. If you are a aspiring artist, aspiring user interface designer, we don't have the resources for training or for full mentorship. So that has often been a point of confusion. So we'll continue to clarify that. But as people consider volunteering, we do have to be honest about our limited resources. We're not a coding school, for example. You should already know how to code. And we also would ask, moving forward, this is written in the GitHub profile, README, which is where I suspect this will be found first. Do a pull request. If you know what that is, then you know what that is. Participate in some of the development process of these projects first, then ask about joining projects. So the GitHub community, the tools, the platform enable external contributions to projects. This will be an easier way to set the stage for participation rather than joining and then never showing up. I know it sounds cynical, but the truth is often that. We don't recruit, we don't visit schools, we don't visit the university and ask. It's a difficult pitch. How would you like to work for us and receive no money? I laugh because it's true. It's not about the money up front. Like I said, I don't want you to work for free, but I want you to be willing to work for free. And that often is the end of a discussion. If you're coming out of college, you may be thinking you want to get a paying job. Now, it doesn't mean that if you're in college or even high school or even younger, that you are not able to contribute to open source projects, to be a civic volunteer, etc. We do attempt to have an any age friendly approach to things. So we don't hold events at 21 plus venues. We are sensitive to parental participation. I often ask that people bring their parents, regardless of their age. So we are definitely open to people who want to spend the time if they are able to hit the ground running, as they say. And that's an expression, not literal. But if they're able to participate proactively, yeah, that doesn't mean you can't ask questions, but it does mean you have to know that you have questions to ask. Oh, some sort of Amazon notification, if you heard that. So that's our challenge moving forward as far as growing our organization with civic volunteers, which is one of the reasons we're reaching out to former Code for America Brigade participants, because they've sort of been through this already. So talking outputs over plans, that's the making it rain part. A lot of episodes of this is episode 60, so probably 50. No, a lot of our previous episodes have been about administrata, like forming our organization, the rename, board members, adding Mary, Sean, stepping away. We're looking for another board member. The history of the organization, Code for Vegas, founding, open data sets, participation back then, Zappos being a sponsor, then not being a sponsor. Yeah, good times. So the paperwork, the filing of the name change process was sort of annoying. The use of the Innovation Center, interaction with city folk, the process, and so on. And the rationale behind some of the projects. So a lot of our episodes have been about each, there was a MyMuni episode recently. What does that mean? What's the motivation? What are the plans? What are the process choices? I've talked about open source licensing. The list goes on. So it's been mostly setting the groundwork. Some context, I guess. Not that people will go back and review 60 episodes, but it's there if anyone is interested. So specific episodes, I've written, my notes are crazy. Specific episodes about specific episodes have been largely, I think it's about specific projects. So I mentioned, for example, the MyMuni project recently. This was, I think, episode 57. They're blue sky, right? They're like, here's what we want to do. They're aspirational. They are real projects. They are, there's an overview starting point in GitHub with some user stories, which are, here's what we want to accomplish and why. There's not enough of them. There needs to be more. More importantly, though, there needs to be more actual implementation so that we can try things, so that we have a basis to build on. This is often one of the questions I've received from potential volunteers before they leave is, why isn't there more done already? So this is the voice of inexperience, right? Hey, I have come here to create things. Why isn't someone else already doing the work for me? So we've encountered that far too many times. But we do need to complete projects, and talking about them in the blue sky context is interesting, but not sustainable. We can never finish if we never really start. We can talk about starting. So actually starting means spending time on project implementation rather than administrata and politics, the politics of trying to negotiate with people to participate, with other organizations to collaborate, etc. So those are things that are time consuming with very, very little return on investment of that time. Like I said, not everything is free. Even though the volunteer does imply that you are doing things for free, there is still a cost involved. One-time only interest, like I said, very, very expensive. So moving forward, it makes more sense to focus on progress and deployment. So for example, next week, episode 61, I should be talking about progress on a particular component of, hopefully, MyMuni, since that's the first thing we want to deploy, even though the Open Transit project remains the most interesting from a practical standpoint. It is the most focused, though, on a smaller group of people. Commuters who use public transportation in the Southern Nevada area who make use of RTC, Regional Transit Commission, Southern Nevada, so RTC, SNV. People that make use of those resources represent a minority of the total population. I would be curious, it would be interesting to know why that is. Is it scheduling? Is it routing? Is it where stops are located and so on? The RTC conducts a survey every 10 years, apparently. So one of our approaches might be to engage with riders and potential riders without requiring the installation of a third-party mobile application, and ask them why they aren't riding the bus at all or more often. The results may be a surprise. So the Open Transit project remains important. Turns out it will fit nicely into the MyMuni framework. So MyMuni is the lead project as an extensible platform for information sharing at city scale. It is not only important as a starting point for our other projects, but it would also form the basis of collaboration across localities, because you can use the MyMuni platform anywhere, my community, my municipality. So we specifically renamed it from My Vegas to imply that what we're trying to accomplish is not Vegas specific. Although the corollary project, Welcome, which fits nicely into the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas. If you've been to the Vegas sign, as they call it, the Vegas sign, the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign and the Welcome project are aimed at tourists. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy it if you're a local or if you live in Vegas anywhere, but it does aim some things at people who are visiting, coming for the first time, etc. So MyMuni is based more on people who are residents. Welcome would be additional features or considerations for visitors. So those two projects will form the basis of extensible expansion of our project base. It would be the way that we can announce things to the general public. We can talk about our projects. We publish this podcast, this audio program, in a collection of audio programs and other content created by people locally about things that might be interesting to people here, rather than relying on algorithms on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. You can actually associate the creative work of individuals with various topics and, find them. How many foodies are creating content in the greater Vegas area? You know Misery Bell. You may not know the millions of others. It seems like millions. Who knows? But the ability to integrate what people are doing, what they're working on, to be able to be discovered and found, integrate that with calendars, and there's all a host of things that the MyMuni project will hope to experiment with through the smart social component or the open data capture platform. These are other projects. Integrate open transit in so that you can just go, where's the bus? I want to take a bus somewhere. Whether you're visiting or you live here. The ability to interact with the bus system. Hey, did you know that to provide feedback, even if you had a really good bus driver, they don't really have a way to do it. You use the same tools as if you're filing a complaint. And if you phone them, it just gets more precarious from there. So they really lack a component of survey of their ridership, for example. We can do the same thing at city scale. Shouldn't you always be able to express opinions on things? Shouldn't you always be able to know how things are going in different parts of the city, in your neighborhood, the next neighborhood over, etc.? Can you rely on local press? Maybe not. So if the platform is driven from the bottom up, as we say, from the people, not from a media organization, not from a third-party company, that's the motivation. We can experiment with it here in the greater Vegas area with some 2.3 million people, give or take, in the Clark County region. That's a census number, so it could change. And with about 577,000, is it? 577,000 living in the city of Las Vegas, but it's who counts the borders? So some 2.3 million people, or we can also add on and interact with and engage with the approximately allegedly 40 million people who visit here each year. That, according to the LVCVA, I think it's more like 38 million at present. So if we can actually build tools to interact with all of these people, because clearly they're visiting Vegas in droves, they can go back home and say, that'd be cool if we had that here. And they could. So enough talking blue sky. These are all aspirational comments I'm making. The time has come to have audio programming about what we've done, what's working, even if it's not much at next week's interval. But the idea is to now start talking about wins. Deploying things for people to use is a win. Getting feedback about those things, also a win. The development process is something we could consider doing a video stream about. We could do live hackathon streams, perhaps. Live team meetings. Team meetings never really need to be at one hackathon. We've always emphasized that they could meet anytime they want. If 2 or 3 or 4 people want to work on a project component together, pick a coffee shop, pick a library, pick a bookstore. Do they still have bookstores here? Pick any place, anywhere, even virtually online, to work together to advance the cause. The end results will ultimately be worthwhile. I cannot promise that financially, but if your motivation to participate in civic volunteerism is coming from within, when you start deploying things, when other people can see your work, can use it, can give you feedback, that will satisfy certainly some of that initial motivation. Oh, look at that. People do appreciate what I'm working on. And then if we can turn that into some sort of compensation through the value for value model, the Innovate for Vegas Labs concept, our commercial deployments, powered by Innovate for Vegas Foundation volunteers, etc., well, that might be even better. Maybe get hired, maybe file patents, who knows? No promises, but no limits. That's where I'll leave it today on this Friday, April 12, 2024. I'll tell you right now the time. I'm looking at my computer clock, 8:12 p.m. So yeah, normally it would have been a.m. and this would have been published in the morning, but that's how volunteering goes. Thank you for listening. As always, visit our website if you'd like to help the cause. If you yourself are a civic volunteer, consider participating in our projects through pull requests or other. Reach out if you have questions about that. If you want to actually join a project, that could happen. Second, not first. So there you go. Thank you again. Thank you for listening. We will catch you next week with hopefully some fruitful updates.